Replay. We are here to discuss some of the ups and downs that's been happening behind the camera here in the realm for Project Paradise. Now, you have to bear with me. Literally been home for less than 10 minutes from work. Managed to finish a little bit earlier than sometimes I usually do. So I've only just made my coffee, so I'm going to give it a moment, see if anybody comes into the live. It's no biggie if people can't. I know it's late, plus it's what day is it? Friday? Is it Friday today? Friday night. So I don't really expect people to be using their Friday night times to tag along here. But for those of you that do show up, make sure to say hello in the chat. Bear with me a moment. I'm going to have a vape. I'm going to have some sip of my coffee because this is my chill out time, and we'll go into all the info of what's going on behind the scenes with Project Paradise in just a moment. So, hello to the person that's in here. We have someone in here. I say hello. I hope everyone's having a good evening. And if you're watching this on the replay, I hope you're having a good day at the time you're watching this. I won't leave it too long. Hello, mate. How are you doing? I won't leave it too long till I kind of get into what I want to talk about. But the problem with lives is you start talking about something and someone else joins and doesn't know what you're talking about, so you just end up on repeat. And the important part of this video, or the factual parts of this video, should I say, kind of what people are going to want to watch on the replay. So I will be getting into that in just a second. So thank you to everyone that has joined. Oh, hello, mate. Northern Exotics is here. How are you doing? Yeah, you're driving, so you won't be able to chat, but you're here. Well, thanks for popping on anyway. I appreciate that. It means a lot. You can have me on as like a podcast kind of thing. It's just pretty cool. And just listen on in. So we're going to we'll give it another minute or so, and then I'll tell you what I'm here to talk about. What else we got? Sorry, I keep having to put my fingers on the screens, but I love how you just show up, James. I even took my uniform off. Look, let's hide that away. Everyone needs to see that. Like, so anyway, the whole reason for this live was just because I just wanted to kind of... Hello, thanks for joining. I just kind of wanted to tell you what's going on. So I'll just get into it now, so that people can just get to the point on the replay. So there's some good news and there's some bad news regarding this project. We'll go through the bad news first. It's nothing too major, but it's more an annoyance than anything else. So I ended up buying 12. I pronounce it Hypericum. I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce the name of that plant, but that's what I'm going to refer to it as. So if I have pronounced it wrong, hopefully you know what plant I mean. So I bought 12 lots of Hypericum. There had been pictures put up where it was put into a bed that was originally a sofa. So there was that one, and there was another bed, flower bed made out of another sofa, in my friend's yard. Now all 12 Hypericum plants are just failing. They are dying out. I'm not a gardener, so I don't know why. I did use very, very cheap soil mix for that particular bed, and I'm wondering if that's what it was. Well, I really don't know, but that entire batch of plants is failing, and that is a plant that I really kind of needed for several species that rely on that plant. So until I can figure out what I'm doing wrong, we're going to have a setback on Hypericum feeders, which is a real nightmare. Now, the other plant bed that we put there is only 2 meters away, so it's nothing to do with the positioning of the sun or anything. That has a little bit of bramble that I'm using as a backup bramble, and that's growing away lovely. So it did have a bit of a better soil in it. It had actually had... They ran out of the cheap soil brand then, so I moved up to the next step, which were actually the grow bags, you know, that you can grow from a bag, grow your tomatoes and things. I just ripped them open and poured them into this bed, and maybe my friend was overwatering the Hypericum, perhaps, certainly wasn't underwatering, to my knowledge anyway. So that's the only real major setback that we've got. That and the fact that I've got to pay off for a whole new fridge freezer. So it's a bummer, but it's not the end of the world. So now we'll talk about some of the positive things. So I've wrote a few things down because I tend to forget in lives what I'm talking about here. So behind the scenes, that's not shown on this YouTube channel, we have 7 species of stick insect now. So we have more, but 7 that have never been shown on this channel, whereas various other ones that have been shown even if they were years ago. So you've got 7 new species to look at. We also have the ova or eggs of another additional 2 species. So when they hatch, that count then goes up to 9, and I'm constantly on the lookout for more. So we will be getting a lot more over there as well. There's a lot I want to talk about in regards to stick insect tanks, but at the moment, just in brief to let you know, there are 9 more tanks. 7 due to arrive. 1 arrived today, so we are upgrading our Phrygonistra, excuse me, Husiyentuensis tank, which is our biggest stick insect species. They are getting an actual tank rather than a net now. So yeah, that's arrived, and then we've got 1 other additional type of tank. So I'm trying things out for stick insect tanks, but I want to get back to that in a moment. Hello, my friend. Thank you for joining. Now, there's a few other things I want to talk about when it comes to the dispersion. So I think that's something that a lot of you probably want to know about. Those of you that are wanting to be a part of this Project Paradise team, or that you're getting this interest in phasmids. You remember when I had 200 subs? Oh, well, thank you for following me for that amount of time, or at least jumping back in after that amount of time. It's greatly appreciated, my friend. Thank you very much for coming along. Excuse me. Anyway, I am going to delve back into, and this is going to be a temporary thing, some of the most basic and beginner species short term as well. One, to do videos for people on them, because although they are common and people are sticking to them rather than moving on, they still have a vital role within the hobby. And I haven't actually covered all the beginner, or what I would class as the super beginner species that people can get hold of. So at some point, but not yet, at some point I will be bringing in at least possibly 10, my top 10 perhaps, beginner species, raising those species, and then literally giving them away. So the beginner and more common ones, I'm not even going to charge people for. If they can pay the postage, then I'm happy to give those away. So there will be in the future roughly around 10 species raised by me, with full care information videos put out there for everybody, and then they will just literally be given away as fertilized adults. So although their lifespan will be a lot shorter, they will be producing ova for the person that takes them on, meaning they will keep the offspring. And I won't be keeping any ova. So if they're already laying for me, I will then be giving away that ova as well. Thank you to everyone that's joined. You're such a good keeper. I love your work. Top 10 beginner species would be great. Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So yeah, so I'm at some point we'll be getting some beginner stuff back in, because I realised, right, I looked through some of my old stick videos and I realised, you know what, I really haven't touched up much on some of these super beginners. So like, I did one Indian stick insect video that's actually done very well on my channel, but it was really poorly done. The video quality itself was incredibly poor. So I will need to kind of work on that again at some point, because they are your most beginner you can get. I've realised that I've touched up on things like your black beauties, your Periphasma schultii, like briefly, very briefly in a video. and I'm thinking, wow, these are beginners, and there is actually some really decent new information regarding that. There's several others as well, and I thought, you know what, I've never even touched up on them. These are animals that a lot of people are going to want info on because they're starting off with them, and I'm just not providing that. So I need to make sure that I do that. So that will be happening. Then, of course, I'll be working on a lot of rarer species, difficult to raise species. I can't guarantee I'll succeed in that, okay? Because although these are more my expertise than any other invert, I'm not an expert. I'm a hobbyist, right? I got a passion for them, doesn't mean I'll get it right every time. There are some species that I have kept in my past that I will never keep again because I'd failed them like 2 or 3 times in a row trying to raise them, and I'm just not ready to give them another try yet. But perhaps down the line, the more experience you get, the better it goes. So yeah, now I'm going to stop for a moment, see how you guys are, if you want to have a little chat or whatever, because my throat is killing me. So I'll stop here for a moment, and then I'll get on to the issue I'm having with tanks, a little discussion on stick insect tanks. So in the long run, we've discussed the bad news, the loss of our Hypericum, which is a real bummer. And then the good news, we've got 7 species you've never seen on this channel, some sets of ova you've never seen, brand new tanks coming in too. So that's pretty cool, right? What did you think of the mantis that looked like moss? I think Gar shared it. Yeah, that was class. Am I thinking of the right one? I might not be thinking of the right one. I can't remember. I really love mossy looking things. So there are some really cool mossy looking mantis out there. There's some really cool mossy looking stick insects out there, as well. I've got a few moss type stick insects, but I don't have the really mossy ones, like the ones that proper have like all these odds and ends hanging off them like they are literally a piece of moss. Hello Moon, thanks for joining. Yeah, they're guessing because that's fans grow in more humid environment perhaps. What made you interested in invertebrates as opposed to any animals? So thank you for your question. 1 second. I'm not being rude. I've got to keep drinking to keep my throat from killing me. So, believe it or not, I actually never had a huge interest as a young child, like most of these hobbyists do. I always found like the little woodlice kind of cool and things. Was petrified of spiders as a kid. I always found them interesting, but I never was going out and collecting them. I used to collect, that's a lie, I did with caterpillars, and as I got a bit older, I was trying to capture spiders and look at them, but I was still afraid of them. But moving on then, I'm allergic to cat and dog hair. I can be around them, but I can't live with them. So if I went to see a friend with a cat or dog, that's fine, but I couldn't live with them. When me and my daughter's mum broke up, my daughter's mum got a dog. So my kid was always around this dog, loved this dog because I'd moved out. And I wanted a pet for her, but I didn't have the space for anything major at the time. And I thought to myself, oh, I might have a little look at stick insects. They're like 50p each down the pet shop. That'll be something interesting. And so I thought I'll just look up how you look after these things. And bam, there it was. I looked up the first stick insect that actually came up was the Extatosoma tiaratum, the Maclay spectre, and I was like, "What is this? This isn't a stick insect, surely." And the fascination grew from there. And I didn't even get Indians first. I went for the Extatosoma tiaratums first. They were actually my first stick insect, and I was even nervous to hold that at the time. And then I fell in love with it. I fell in love with that, and then I started watching YouTube, and I started like looking into more animals, and then YouTube videos were coming up, and I never even considered invert keeping a hobby. I didn't know it was a big thing. So it just opened this whole new world to me that just grew and grew and grew and grew. I think from stick insects, my next sort of things went on to mantis, and then it went on to a couple of species of beetle, but nothing, never went major into beetles. Spiders in general were actually one of the last major things that I got into. And then I got really hooked on them, and now I'm kind of going back to my roots. So yeah, it's quite a long explanation for probably a quick answer question. But yes, it was just trying to find a pet for my kid, and then I fell in love myself with the animals. So that's where it all came from. So you all having a good evening though. Hello, how are you doing? I was actually gonna try and see you for your podcast. I saw when it went up, but I was at work at the time. Um, I came home. I actually did actually click on your video and saw that your stream had ended. For some reason, house spiders still give me the jumps a bit. To be fair, they do with me when I'm not expecting them there. So if I just see one run across like towards me, I still jump. Like they're a lot creepier, aren't they, than things like teeth? But I'm not too bad with them. I'm not like super scared of them, but they still do make me jump too. So wow, we've already been on here for 17 minutes. I didn't even realise. Well, I better get to what I wanted to say about enclosures, and then we can just talk whatever you want to talk about. Oh yeah, actually, I'll answer that question, Cracks, first. So how did the inspection go? So if you guys have been following me for a while, you might have heard me talk about the Realm Furb idea where I upgraded my enclosure and stuff. Hello, Gav, mate. How are you doing? The one of the major reasons I did such an expensive upgrade for my tarantulas and other invertebrates was because I knew I was going to have a house inspection coming up, and I never really fully agreed to keep everything that I keep. So I was in panic mode that I'm going to get booted out of this house. Now, there were two due. I was supposed to have the landlord himself come over, who doesn't live in this country, but then COVID hit, and he obviously can't come over to this country. But instead, I did have to have a house inspection done by the agency of the agency to come round, and it was the female part. So there's a couple, or I believe they're a couple, and I'm in no way trying to be sexist here, but normally it's quite often the women that will freak out a bit more than the men when it comes to the spiders and the tarantulas and things. Like, I'm not saying there's more arachnophobic women than there are men, but they tend to be to show it off a bit more. And I thought, oh, they also tend to be quite brutal, if I'm honest, when it comes to things like that. So I was really panicking that this lady's going to come around and go, this isn't all agreed to, you're out. But I tell you what, she was fantastic. She came, she I did pre-warn her before she walked in the room. I said it might give you the creeps in here. I said, but honestly, it's all very professional. Nothing's going to get out, but I keep a lot of exotic invertebrates. Lucky for me, she's a reptile keeper, so she's used to things like feeders. So that worked in my favour. And I tell you what, she just looked around and went, that's pretty cool. And that was that. Then it went on to looking around the rest of the house. So we passed that inspection. So thank goodness for that. The entire plans behind Realm Furb worked. It was worth all that money for me to, at least for the moment, be able to keep all the animals that I do. So yeah, thanks for asking about that. On to these enclosures. Stick insect enclosures. There is literally next to none. I know there is one or two around, okay? Next to no companies providing correct stick insect designed enclosures. So if you look, mantis enclosures, oh, excuse me, mantis enclosures like the Mantis Den ones and other ones are created for almost perfection in the majority of mantis keeping. Obviously, some mantis do better in nets than tanks, but the ones that do live better in tanks, they've almost pretty much perfected that kind of style of tank. They've got the right kind of airflow coming in. They've got the right molting platform. Excuse me. And obviously they're much more compact sizes. Stick insect enclosures, there are not a lot out there that are correct. Now there is pretty much perfect sizing. They probably are ideal, but for me, it's not for me. One, they're very expensive. Two, they're not going to be perfect for every species, which you're never going to get anyway. And three, there's a lot of little gimmicky bits that come along with buying this. Oh, and then if you buy this, this will make this easier. I don't like that. I understand as a business, you got to do that, but I feel that that's showing more greed than anything else. If you buy this tank, you must also have that. I'm not. No, I don't. You don't need that, right? Tanks, good enough. So, aside from that company, there's really next to no one. You can look up stick insect enclosures and you'll get a vast amount of things that are absolute tripe. Again, aside from netted enclosures, there are some stick insects that do better in high ventilation nets, and nets are nets. Some mantis do well in it, some stick insects do well in it. You can't top that for really airy species. But for your less airy species, the ones that can live in tanks and do well in tanks, they have no real perfected enclosure style. And I'm struggling to. I'm not good at creating things with my hands. I'm not a really good DIY person. I'm struggling to find the right things. I can certainly adapt certain enclosures in certain ways to improve them. But again, I'm sorry about this cough. Again, that's all at additional costs. So finding this perfected stick insect enclosure, at least for the right price, is tough. And I've been trying to get in contact with various people about coming up with a design for them. Now, my first person to go to would have been Mantis Den, because we have a lot of trust for each other. I know we discussed the measurements when it came to the tarantula enclosures that he does, and stuff like that. I trust the guy, and I know that he would work on things for me. However, he can only work with acrylic up to a certain size. He only works with acrylic, and he can only work with it up to a certain size before it's too costly for him that he would have to charge extortionate prices. And there are a lot of tiny species that will do well in standard size enclosures, even in the size that Mantis Den can provide for your larger size mantis. But when you get to your medium to large species, there are next to no decent tanks out there. And as Moon says here, you should design one for stick insects. I could do a design, but there is nobody I know that could create that design for me, at least at the right price. Excuse me. So I don't want to go naming certain companies here, because I don't want people being put off by them by what I'm saying here. But there has been a company that I was going to work alongside with a while ago. I'm talking a couple of years ago now, coming up with this design. But that company's prices have rocketed as it is. We're talking about one design that would have been, for my Phrygonistra, a huge species, right? So you'd very rarely need a tank this size, but this was a gigantic tank that I needed, and it was working out at something like 120 quid, which for normal species you would never need something that big or expensive. But for these, that was okay. Didn't have the money at the time, left it a while. Nowadays, that same size thing is now going for over £200. So you see what I mean? 80 quid more than what it was 2 years ago in the discussion. And I'm like, and it's not designed for stick insects either, it's designed for something else, but it would have been adapted a bit more for stick insects for me. And I was thinking, 80 quid more, like, that's getting a bit silly now. So I didn't bother. And then obviously I told you I can't discuss it with Mantis Den, because he can't get it at the right price for people to be willing to pay himself to craft these enclosures. So I need to find a company willing to work with me on this and to trial and error things as well. Like I cannot just say this is the design, mass produce this. I need to go, this is the design, then I need to test it. Okay, I need to try really humid species. I need to try really arid species. Um, I need to try various points of ventilation, whether the circle ventilation is better or the slit ventilation is better, whether we need to work on whole mesh side, or whether it's just mesh strips. There are so many different things that will need to be tested before I can simply go, this is the perfect stick insect tank for a majority of species. You're never going to get one that suits them all, because that's impossible, because they're different climates, right? But you know what I mean, that average generic perfect for a majority of species type tanks. Should get clever with Petco from the Dark Denders or something. The problem with Petco is he's way too busy to talk to me. So we used to chat in Petco a little bit in the old days, about 3-4 years ago. And to be fair, the guy will still reply to me now, but it will take days, sometimes even weeks, because he's such a busy guy. And when we meet at the shows, when he comes to the UK like once a year, or well, I've met him twice, he'll happily sit and chat to me for ages. You know, we can have a right laugh together. He knows who I am. I know who he is. We have a good time. But aside from that, he's just far too busy all the time. He really, really is. I would love to do it with him, because I know that he keeps H. dilatata, but I just don't think he'll ever be free. Hello, I'm a big fan, and I have a jungle nymph female. Oh, just as I was saying, H. dilatata. Hello. Well, thanks for coming on to the live. Do you only have a female, or do you have any males as well? Sadly, I don't have any spare males otherwise. Oh, this cough is killing me. I can't be on this live much longer, guys. I'm struggling here. A breeding pair, perfect. I was going to say I don't have a spare male, otherwise I would pass one on to you. That's good to hear. That is good to hear. Do you know what? There's still a stick insect I am touchy about handling. Do you handle yours? I handled mine when she was younger, all the way up to sub-adult stage, but now she's adult. She's horrible. She's brutal, and she will kick to death. I choose not to handle my. See, says he makes his own enclosures. Yes, he does. Like I said, I would love to work alongside Petco, but I just don't think he will have that sort of time to discuss it with me. Oh, and Mark's here. Hello, Mark. I'm not bad, mate. I'm unwell at the moment, so I'm struggling with the talking. Got a really bad throat and a cough, but it's not COVID. I've been tested. In Plymouth down here, there are a lot of people with this virus going on that isn't COVID related. So yeah, I kind of discussed everything I wanted to discuss. So if anyone wants to watch the replay, you can skip in about 2 or 3 minutes, and you'll start to hear the things we've discussed here. I just feel bad because I'm still pumping out like tarantula content at the minute, but it's all my backup videos. I did weeks upon weeks of backup videos a while ago, so I could start working on actual Project Paradise without having to worry about the camera. So I can get things done on my days off rather than filming, and it's worked. But I'm nearly out of pre-recorded videos now, so stick insect videos will start, I believe, the 16th of this month. What's the date now? I don't know, but that can't be far off. Oh, by the way, if I disappear, guys, that's going to be it from me, because I've got 4% battery and I have no charger. It's upstairs. So I'm just going to say right now, if I cut off and you want to talk to me, message me on Facebook, because I will put this on charge after. Okay? Lemon and honey for coughing. Yeah, I don't have anything though. I'm from Plymouth and I have a bad throat and a cough at the minute too. You're from Plymouth. Do I know you? Or because I'm trying to think of it by your name on here. Are we? Do we know each other? Because I know you and not your YouTube name or something. I'm not sure. Videos have been great. Thank you. Bye. Thank you for joining. We don't know each other. You can certainly message me on Facebook, dude, if you want, Sam Carver, or you can message me on the Bug Realms page, Facebook page, or you can look up Sam Carver. That's me, because this battery is going to go soon. I'm down to 3% battery. Cracks, I'm actually going to be going, my friend, because my battery is about to die and my throat is also dying. Well, I appreciate you watching my channel. Hit me up, we'll have a chat. So the more people down here to talk to, the better. Marinated pork steak. Lovely. Right, guys, I'm going to shoot because I don't want to be rude and my phone die out on me. I'm sorry to cut this right off now. But as I said, if anybody wants to continue this conversation via message so that I can rest my throat, you can contact me on Facebook. You can contact me on Instagram, but I prefer Facebook because I turn off my Instagram notifications. So we're going to leave it there. Thank you guys for joining for another spontaneous late night live. I really do appreciate it. And if you see in the chat, if you don't know Cracks, Exotics Radio Podcast, please make sure to go and subscribe there, because every now and again I do pop on there when I can to talk on that podcast, and it's a really, she gets a lot of interesting people up on there, so it's really worth checking out if you haven't already. So, gonna leave it here, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm down to one. Gonna go get my charger now, and you're more than welcome. Take care, everybody. Whoa. And I will see you in the next video. Bye. Where's the off button? I always lose the off button. Okay, cheers, bye.